Welcome back, everybody. We want to talk right now about the Mollie Tibbetts case, the missing University of Iowa student. She went missing back on July 18th. That was the last time anybody saw her. She was jogging near her hometown of Brooklyn, Iowa. It was about an hour's drive away from Pella. She was staying at her boyfriend's house at the time to watch his dogs while he was out of town. This search for what has been happening to her has been going on for weeks now. Well, we want to let you know that Fox News has just updated about this case, and they are reporting that maybe Mollie Tibbetts' body has been found, that she has been found dead. That is what Fox News has reported right now. We are waiting more details to confirm this. If that is the case, it is truly a horrifying end to this saga. And we're going to have to wait to actually see what the confirmation is. But that is the first report, the first update we've had of today, that Mollie Tibbetts has been found dead. We believe that is what Fox News has been reporting. We will see. But we have to confirm that. I want to bring in right now former police officer Charlie Wilkie to talk a little bit more about it. Charlie, welcome to Law&Crime. Good. If this is the situation, it is a really sad end. What do you make of this?
It's very sad. We've had similar cases here in Jacksonville where we've had people go missing, and you hope for the best. You're hoping that you're going to be able to find them and bring them back safely to their family. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen in this case. It's a very, very sad ending.
Well, I hope Fox News is wrong. I really do. I hope there was misinformation here. But my question to you is, and when people were talking about this case, is it the first 48 hours that you have to find somebody? Otherwise, this is the potential result?
Well, those are very crucial. The first 48 hours is where you're going to have evidence that's going to help you. You may find a track or something that a canine could follow. You may find physical evidence that could lead you somewhere else. And in each hour that passes, you know, that evidence tends to go away, especially when we're talking about tracking with dogs or bloodhounds, those type of tools that we use in law enforcement to assist us in locating people. The longer the time takes, the more that ability is dissipated.
And do you think that there is, when you were looking at how police were investigating this matter, right, they were looking at all different kinds of avenues, including, and I was shocked to learn this, that Iowa has a human trafficking ring. You know, what about the investigation caught your eye?
Well, I think, all of it did. I mean, it's a very interesting case. I mean, it's just, it was so out of the blue, meaning, she was just out for a jog. A lot of times when someone goes missing, you look immediately towards boyfriends, girlfriends, those type people. And in this case, that seemed to have been ruled out right from the start because she was there, taking care of his dog while he was out of town. So immediately it was like, wow, this could be an interesting case to see how this plays out.
Yosha, I've got to ask you, pretty fascinating situation. If she is in fact dead, and they find the suspect, they find somebody who did this, how on earth do you get an impartial jury when this case has been spread all across the media and everybody's been covering it?
It's going to be very difficult because this is not just in the local news in Iowa. This is nationwide. My mom called me when this news broke out. She's watching in Delaware. Everyone is holding their breath here and hoping that Fox News is wrong about this. So it's going to probably still be in Iowa because anywhere could potentially be a tainted jury.
And what are the questions that you ask them? Have you heard about this case? I mean, most people have heard about this. So what are the questions you would get to try to find an impartial jury here?
You just try to ask them if they can keep an open mind, and then from when the trial commences, that they have to just shut off all media. But the important thing is, can they keep an open mind, and can they consider the evidence, not what the media has told them?
Charlie, if this is confirmed, what are the next steps, both for the investigation and just the crime scene in general? What are the next steps moving forward if this is true that they have found Mollie Tibbetts?
Well, it's interesting you say that moving forward because exactly what they're going to have to do is move backwards, for lack of a better term. You're going to have to retrace her last steps, take the evidence that's presented to you and try to piece together her last hours and days and try to see what that leads you to, if there's any evidence of a suspect, any evidence of foul play, and go from there to bring it all the way back to the moment that she left the house to go jogging and try to put all that together.
And I know the police were looking at certain suspects. I think they were looking at the boyfriend. They were looking at a farmer nearby. They ruled the farmer out. But again, we are left here with more questions than we have answers. And we will update our viewers and our listeners about this case and whether or not we will confirm that they have found Mollie Tibbetts dead. I hope they're wrong. I really, really hope they're wrong. But we will update and confirm once we have that. Again, so thank you. We're going to switch gears on our side here. We're going to focus on a major case, another major case here on Law and Crime, and that has been the Shayna Hubers case out of Kentucky. Again, this young woman who's on trial for the murder of Ryan Poston, her boyfriend. The defense is painting a very horrible relationship that ended in tragedy. Well, the prosecution is saying, you see this woman right here? She is a cold-blooded murderer, and she should not be trusted for anything that she said. What I want to do right now is play you the testimony of Doris West. This is a neighbor of Ryan Poston, and she's going to talk about what she saw and what she heard the night that Ryan got shot in his condominium. Take a look.
What happened next? Let me see.
Do you remember in relation to the shots?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. She hadn't been in there but just a few seconds and heard two shots. And I'm beginning, I thought they were firecrackers, but later they were not. And then there was 4 more shots, like boom, 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 boom. That's the way I heard them.
All right. And so this individual went in, you heard a chair scrape, and then a few seconds later you heard what you thought were firecrackers at first.
Yes,
All right.
twice I thought it was firecrackers, yes.
And do you know how long between the 2 and the 4 shots? If you know.
Maybe 6 seconds.
Okay. All right. Now, before the shots, did you hear any yelling or screaming or anything like that?
Absolutely no.
Okay. And you'd been living there a while. Mr. Poston had already been living there. Had you heard any yelling or screaming coming from above you in that apartment? When he was there?
Never.
All right. And are you and Mr. West retired?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And so would you be home? Sounds like you do go out, but would you be home a lot? Or?
Home a lot.
Okay.
Old people don't go out much.
And did you hear anything after the shots?
Yes, we heard a loud bang on the ceiling, and like someone falling, and that's what I heard, all I heard at that time.
Okay, all right. And then eventually the police showed up after that?
Oh, yes. The sirens and all that, and the police coming, yes.
Now, had you ever heard anything before coming from above on the 3rd floor? I know you said there was no yelling or screaming or noise or anything.
No.
Right. And you said it was maybe weeping that night. Had you ever heard weeping before?
You're talking Friday night now?
No, before Friday night.
Before Friday. Yes, ma'am. On Thursday night, someone was on the deck weeping, not loud, just weeping softly, crying softly. And then also got up and went into the, and I heard a voice, and then a voice come out and said, "It's okay, it's okay." That's the only 2 things I heard Mr. say.
Okay, so that was the night before.
That was Thursday night.
That was Thursday night, okay. But you didn't hear any yelling or screaming or anything else?
No.
All right, okay.
This is a really incredible case, and I want to talk to Yosha Gunasekera a little bit more about it because the details of it are pretty incredible. Why did the defense switch strategies here? The first trial, we didn't hear so much about their sexual relationship. We didn't even know that she was sexually abused, according to her defense attorney. Why switch strategies right now?
Well, they lost the first trial. So that's probably the biggest indicator that they're not going to sway a jury with what they did before. They needed to provide something more because, again, this is a really tough case. I mean, we just heard the neighbors say there was no struggle, and that's at the heart of the defense's theory. So they're really trying to shore that up by talking about this couple's past.
If she is psychologically damaged, if she was a ticking time bomb, if the wires were not connecting the same way as you and me, is that more of a defense? And is that an avenue that the defense should have explored? I don't know if that's insanity, but something like that?
I think they probably should have gone that way. I think it's very clear that the prosecution is proving this isn't self-defense. I think if they had just said she was emotionally disturbed, she had some other issues, I think they would have had a stronger case.
Well, we're going to talk more about this and what the definition of extreme emotional disturbance is, according to the statute. But I also want to let our viewers know that we were just talking about the Mollie Tibbetts case. There is a press conference scheduled for 5 p.m. Central Time today. We will talk more about that. I'm sure a significant amount of information will be shared. So we're covering a lot here on Law and Crime. We have to take a quick break on our end. But when we come back, we'll talk about everything. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about a lot here on Law and Crime, but we want to focus right now on the Shayna Hubers case because this is a truly bizarre case out of Kentucky about a woman who is, you see her right there, that she's facing a retrial. She was first tried and convicted for the murder of her boyfriend, Ryan Poston, but she's getting a second trial after one of the jurors in that jury, we found out was a convicted felon and didn't mention that on the jury questionnaire. That was a mistrial. She's getting a second shot at the apple right here. But unfortunately, the prosecution is presenting a very strong case against her that this was a cold-blooded murder, while she is claiming that it was self-defense. The evidence, though, doesn't quite seem to support that theory. But her defense team has also seemed to put out this idea that she was in a horrible relationship with Ryan Poston, that he wanted to be with other women, that he was going to break up with her, that he was emotionally and sexually abusive towards her, and that she was a ticking time bomb. What I want to play for you right now is the testimony of Vernon West. This is another neighbor who was there the night that Ryan Poston was shot. I believe Vernon is the husband of Doris West, who we just played you a little while ago. Let's hear from Vernon what he saw and what he heard the night Ryan was shot.
A prior tenant that lived in that apartment above you after Mr. Poston, do you recall ever hearing some arguments between he and a significant other?
I heard it once. He was fighting with his girlfriend, and I called the police.
And that's a neighbor who lived there after Mr. Poston?
Yeah.
And you could hear that fighting?
Oh, I can hear that one because yeah.
Okay. And Mr. West, I want to direct your attention. There was a prior hearing in this case where you came and gave testimony, correct?
Yeah.
And I want to approach and remind you of something. Under your prior sworn testimony, when asked if you heard anything prior to the shooting and returning home from Newport, you had told them that you thought you heard Miss Hubers sitting on the deck sobbing a little bit, and after a while I guess she went inside, and it wasn't long until I heard gunfire. Does that help you recall testifying to that at a prior hearing?
I don't know if I heard her that night. No,
Okay, you're not sure as you sit here?
yeah, no. The night before,
Go on.
she was out sobbing on
So that would have been Thursday night, October 11th,
on the deck.
and you heard her crying on the deck?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear anything else?
Well, and I heard Ryan come out and tell her, it's okay, it's okay.
All right.
And that's, I don't remember Friday night her doing it.
Okay. So as you sit here today, you don't recall hearing her cry that Friday night?
No, I don't think I do.
Okay. But you do recall giving prior sworn testimony at a hearing in this case?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty incredible stuff trying to understand what happened in that condominium. I'm sure a difficulty, Yosha, is the fact that the only two people who really knew what happened in that condominium were the victim and the defendant. So how do you defend a case like that when it's her word against what the evidence suggests?
Well, it's actually a pretty common scenario. So this is why these witnesses are very important. They weren't there, but they clearly were able to hear a fair amount. So that's important. But then also recreating the crime scene. This is when forensic analysis is very important to determine where he was standing, where she was standing, how close the gun was to him. Those are the important things that are needed in order to really recreate this crime scene that none of us were able to see.
Yeah, and her own statements, you've got to look at those statements. She wanted to kill him about a week and a half before the actual shooting. How do you ward that off? How do you ward the text messages where she said she hoped her friend, who's a dentist, would mess his teeth up so he's so ugly that no other woman will want him?
It's difficult. She obviously had a lot of rage towards him. And what the defense has to play at here is we've all been angry at people and we've all said things that we regret. Of course, not everyone has then gone on to kill the person that they were angry at, but they have to, again, always bring it back to the self-defense. She did say that he was throwing her around immediately after this happened. That is something that is consistent and something that they can point to shore up their self-defense theory.
She had no injuries on her, though, when she took the mug shot, and there was nothing disturbed in the condominium. Can you still say that he threw her around?
It's difficult. It becomes a very uphill battle, which then begs the question, why did they decide to go with self-defense? It's a good question.
It is a good question, and we will follow that a little bit more. But I want to talk about another huge case in the media right now. I'm sure you've heard about it. It is the case about Christopher Lee Watts. This is out of Colorado. This man, he is somebody, you've seen him probably. He has said that he wanted the safe return of his wife and children. They went missing, but what happened? He was just charged with their murder. He claimed that he had confessed to killing his wife in a fit of rage after he saw her killing their 2 young daughters, and his wife was pregnant at the time. This is a truly horrific case, and the details of it are bizarre. I want to try to understand how this is being investigated a little bit more from our very special guest, former police officer Charlie Wilkie. Charlie, this case is really strange. You're first having a missing persons case, then you were going into a murder case with the very father. I mean, how did this all unfold? How does it work in terms of I'm sure they looked at the father first, right? He's the first suspect?
Absolutely. He's going to be the first suspect. Any close family members, if there's an alleged boyfriend, any other acquaintances, those kind of things are always going to be the first people that are looked at. And you're also going to look at their temperament, their demeanor, how they're handling themselves through this time. Are they acting like a spouse would if their wife and 2 daughters were missing? Those type of things play into that as well.
Police said that Watts told them that he buried his wife on the property of the oil and natural gas company that he worked for, and that he dumped the girls inside the oil tanks. How do they go about finding the bodies?
Wow. It's going to be a process, and I don't know if they're going to have to drain the tanks and how much decomposition is going to be either saved or happen while they were in the oil. It's just a horrific way for those poor children's lives to come to an end.
I agree with you. And do you go searching for their financial records, try to make sense of why this might have happened? I know that it's claimed that they were in significant debt, but what do you do to investigate the motive?
Right, exactly. You look at all that. You look at the financial aspects. You're going to be checking his phone for any records. Is there another woman involved? Has he made her promises that he's going to leave the wife and children and move on? But he's got another baby on the way. So if they're financially strapped, you don't know what kind of pressure he thought he was under, that he felt like he needed some kind of permanent solution to a temporary problem, because they're all temporary problems. We've all been through times that, tough times, and you work through them and you continue moving forward. This is never the answer,
Reports are that he was having an affair with somebody and that he was planning on leaving the wife, but I want to see how this all plays in with Yosha. Yosha, the idea that he claims he killed his wife because she was killing the children, have you ever seen that be a successful defense before?
I don't think I've even ever heard of it before. It just sounds like someone who is caught red-handed doing something bad and then is blaming someone who can't speak for herself because she's dead. The whole the whole chain of events were very bizarre because he at first acted like they were just missing. So he's been very inconsistent in what he's been saying, which I think raises a lot of red flags.
And Charlie, how do you even go about investigating that claim that she was killing the kids? What would you look for?
Well, you look to see, where is he claiming this happened at? Is there any physical evidence at that scene, or is there even a scene there? All those different things as far as what his testimony is going to be versus the physical evidence is just the basis of how that's all going to get started and how it's going to play itself out.
Wow, wow. Every time I look at the picture of the family, looks like an idyllic family, looks like a great family, picture perfect, and there was a lot hidden underneath there. We're going to have to find out more about it. We will update all of our viewers about this Colorado father, and as you know, it's been constantly in the news, but stick here on Law and Crime because we cover it from a different angle. And when we come back, we're going to talk about our other case here, and that is the Roy Oliver case. Why did 15-year-old Jordan Edwards get gunned down? We'll find out. Welcome back to Law and Crime, everybody. So we want to update you about what has been happening in one of the biggest situations, the biggest story here in the news. It is the Mollie Tibbetts case, the missing University of Iowa student. She went missing back on July 18th. She was last seen jogging. She was babysitting or dog sitting, I should say, the dogs of her boyfriend. And she went missing, and there has been a frantic search to find out what has happened to her. Well, earlier on our program, and I'm about to tell you now again, multiple media sources are reporting that they have found the body of Mollie Tibbetts, that she has been found dead. Again, we are waiting to confirm this because today there will be a press conference at 5 p.m. Central Time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll get more details about what is happening here. But I want to learn and what we can expect from such a press conference. Let me bring back in Charlie Wilkie, former police officer. In these kinds of cases, Charlie, what are these press conferences? What happens in these press conferences?
Well, basically, at this point, they're just giving confirmation that the search has ended as far as unfortunately finding the victim. And then it starts into, the investigation start. As far as what happened and how the last days of her life transpired. And so I doubt there'll be much information given on that. But initially on this, it will be just given confirmation that she has been located. And unfortunately, it sounds like in this case, deceased.
Is there a possibility they say we also have a suspect in custody or something like that?
Anything's possible, but I highly doubt it. But anything is possible. You never know what information they've already had, how long they've already been working on leads, and if they've been fruitful and found something from those leads. So it's hard to say.
Yosha Gunasekera, our Law and Crime trial analyst, I have a question for you about this. What is the DA's office thinking at this point?
They're trying to preserve the evidence as well as they can. They're trying to do an immediate investigation. And obviously, they're going to be trying to work with the police to find a suspect. You have really two choices. Is it someone that she knew in this very small town, which I think limits potentially the number of suspects? Or is it a stranger? Is it a drifter? If it's someone just passing through town who committed this, they're going to try to find that answer.
And we're going to have more answers later on today when that press conference is held. That's out of Iowa, and it is the Mollie Tibbetts case. But I also want to update you about another breaking story here that's happening in the news, and this is the Colorado father who has been accused of killing his wife and two girls. This is Christopher Watts. I want to talk about this case as well. Charlie, what a bizarre and tragic case. What do the police do at verifying what he has said, that he killed his wife because she was trying to kill these two kids? He's admitted to killing them and said that he dumped their bodies near an oil work site. What do they go about now that they have that information?
Well, as Yosha said on the other trial, it's a matter of preserving the evidence. It's a matter of trying to retrace all the final steps, trying to give any validity to the statements that he's made, which, I'm sure we're all putting a lot of doubt in any of that as being true or accurate. It sounds as if, obviously he is the suspect of all three murders, at least initially going in. I just, when have you ever heard of a mom killing her children? It's so rare. I mean, you've had Susan Smith, years ago, that type of thing, but something like that just does not typically happen. And to say that he killed her out of a fit of rage just doesn't really add up as typical in my experience in law enforcement.
Yosha, he's been charged with 9 criminal counts, including the murders of his wife, the daughters, and also she was pregnant. So he's been charged with including unlawful termination of a pregnancy and tampering with dead bodies. Can they, defense, say, hey, listen, he is not guilty of murder, but yes, he did tamper with the bodies, and maybe he could be found guilty of a lesser count? What are they ultimately hoping to go for there?
It's possible, but he has admitted to killing his wife, he said, in a fit of rage. So they're going to somehow try to present some kind of mitigating evidence that that wasn't an intentional murder and try to downgrade that into something less serious. But again, it's going to be very tough, and his story just simply doesn't sound believable at this point.
Yeah, it's a pretty unbelievable case, a pretty unbelievable story. But what we do know, it is tragic. Look at these photos. Look at these photos. Look at this family photo right here. Does this make any sense to anybody? It sure doesn't make sense to me. And we're just learning the details of it because it's so strange. First, he was the concerned husband trying to find out what happened to his family, and then he admitted to killing them. Tragic, tragic. We will cover more of that here on Law and Crime. But here, as you know, we cover live trials here, and that's what I want to talk about right now. We are going live right now into the Roy Oliver case out of Texas. Walexa Castro, she is a gunshot residue expert, is on the stand. I believe this is outside the presence of the jury. Her qualifications are being questioned. This is all done. This is a voir dire process before they go in there, before the jury actually sees this witness. Let's learn a little bit more about the gunshot residue, because that's what this whole case is about. Why were those shots fired into that car, and why was 15-year-old Jordan Edwards killed? Let's find out.